one of the, I think one of the major problems in our writing in local areas is not having clear idea about the main reasons why you are writing a manuscript. So for research manuscript, you have a limited space, usually have 2,000 to 3,000 words. The audience are experts, so you should focus more on the research question and the answer rather than the background information. I think most of us you start writing thesis or review articles. So I think understanding the difference between writing a scientific manuscript versus thesis, I think it's important. So I think one of the major key for me is to understand that the key issue to focus on is your research question and the answer. And I think through all the manuscript sections, you should understand how these sections relate to the research question and answer. So the introduction, it is actually about the research question. The methods is your methods to answer the question. This is the quality of your data. The results is the answer, and the discussion is the implications after this answer. So you have a lot of distractor. I mean, this is what you focus on, but usually are distracted in the introduction by a lot of background informations. For the method section, usually distracted by giving too much information about surgical technique or methods, and the result by the results unrelated to the research question. For discussion, it should be clear that the discussion is about your research question and the answer rather than the general discussion about the topic, which can be endless. So for the introduction, usually it follows this like funnel shaped. You start very wide about background information, you go narrower toward the problem, knowledge gap, then the research question again is the main part. This is the main part of the introduction, which should bring you to the objectives. For the research question, I have the idea that a lot of time people, they not well define the problem. So when you say, for example, that endoscopic versus open discectomy, it is not known which is superior, this is not enough definition of the problem. You should define the problem. You should report what the methodological reasons for this, why we don't know that endoscopic is superior than open discectomy, because we need large randomized controlled study with long-term follow-up. It's very hard to make such a study. So after saying the reason, the methodological reason, your objective or solution, you should have a methodology which overcome these problems. If you don't have that, so it means your paper is weak. For the methodology, I have just two comments. One is not giving a lot of information about the technique, or because you can just do a reference. At the same time, I think the important information will be related to the reproducibility of the result. Or, for example, if you are describing a TLF technique, whether you do it MIS or open, it's an important detail regarding the result, but just describing like in one paragraph all the details about TLF is not related. So I think that the methodology is the most difficult, and the way I think about it is you have to master the methodology language. So when you read, this is one of my papers, and when you read the paper, I think not all the people can understand to the same degree what's the meaning. I mean, when we say this is an image-based study, when we say to reviewers, you might read that and you don't understand how important. This paper was rejected actually because the number of reviews, how much experience they have, or if they have fellowship training. Blinded, independent analysis. You cannot analyze the MRI while you are aware about the CT result. This is called non-blinded, which is actually very important for the level of evidence. So this is a problem. When you read the literature, how much you understand, how much about the methodology is dependent on your background. Sometimes there is reporting guidelines for metastatic analysis or for diagnostic accuracy, which give you very detailed, but this is, you cannot have this in all aspects. So the results, I think what I want to say about the results is you don't have to include all the data in the result. You have to master text versus tables versus, figures. Figures like this, it will give you a very nice data visualizations, which is very important for the quality of your paper. Tables can give you very comprehensive data, and text should be very, very focused on the important. The discussion, what I want to say about the discussion is, I like, Dr. Ali sent me the previous presentation. There is a structured way to do the discussion. I think my strongest recommendation is the first paragraph should focus on the summary results. I mean, I think this, why it is mandatory, because I think it is just extension of the result. When you report your result in the results section, it's usually in terms of figures, p-values, but here you can say it in plain language. You can say endoscopic discectomy is safer than, for example, open discectomy. So this is what the reader is expecting. You ask the research question, and here, this is the time to answer the question very clearly and say the novelty of your approach. What is new? You are reporting the largest study, you are reporting a randomized controlled trial. This is a different methodology. I think also the last paragraph should focus on the limitations and the strength. And I think this should be done in a tactic way. Like, you are not going to say this is a weakness. No, you should say what is the weakness, why, the other strengths. The other usually 2 paragraphs is usually for the literature and implications. For the literature, I want to focus on the way we discuss the literature, like citing every author. I think you should do what we call a critical overview. You should read all the literature, comprehend it very well, and you focus on how, thinking about how your paper is different from the other papers. You don't have to cite all authors. You should have this overview technique and the critical thinking of the difference between your study and the others. So this is very important. I mean, when you write a manuscript, you have a toolbox, actually, technological toolbox. I think like old people like me, they are not very familiar, but starting to learn this, it really helps a lot. So this is, for example, this is a paraphrasing tool. I don't know how many people use it. So this is a very important tool. You can add it on the Word file, and you can just do your writing, and it will give you 5, 6 options for different styles. And, you know, I was writing paper in 3 months. Now I can write the same paper in 3 days with this tool. This is a very important tool. Grammarly, I think people who may be more familiar with this. Actually, I think especially for young people, they have to master this, and it's not very expensive compared with the what you pay for the language editing. The other one, which is another fantastic tool, is, you know, all these from my papers. This is like anatomy editing I did. This is like a figure. All these can be done. I mean, either you can learn it, I think, for young people, or you have to pay for it. Like this freelancers websites now, like Fiverr, you can do all this stuff. I think you can do figure like this with $20 or $30. This will improve the quality of your manuscript if you are aiming for a high impact journal. This is Mendeley. This is one of the softwares. I mean, I think more people are more familiar with this. So I think mastering of this toolbox is one of the keys, especially for young people. I think you have just to learn it, or you have to pay for it. It's not very expensive. But because actually, you know, when you write a manuscript, it is very demanding. It takes time, it takes effort. And I think these technologies will help very much, especially for the writing. I think that's all. Thank you very much.